I'm super excited for this episode because we are interviewing a dentist today on the Blueprint Podcast. I've been following this man on Instagram and have really just grown to appreciate him as an entrepreneur, as a brand, as a father. And give it a round of applause for Mr. Toks Emdin. A lot of people have a love-hate relationship with their dentist, right? We all know we should go, but some people don't go. I love going to the dentist.
If we make it a thing like you, where you were going to the dentist and you started with a great experience to where it's an okay place for you to go back, then that dentist has done their job. Because we're so intimate, it's like, who else is going to go and look inside someone's mouth while they're awake? We have that side, but then we also have a business side that a lot of us clinicians and dentists tend to neglect because it's not what we went to school to learn. We learned how to be caretakers. We're in the seven-figure business and all of 2023. And then boom, I came down with the diagnosis at the end of 2023 that I thought I was going to have to file for bankruptcy. Like, what does worry really look like? In the waiting, in the fire, what are we saying? How are we really representing God in that time? The true faith is when those times of worry do come, not what the response that we think is. What have our reflexes now shown us about our faith?
So if you're enjoying the Blueprint Podcast so far, I want you to give a big round of applause for Josh David with CTC Mortgage. Not only is Josh a guest on the Blueprint Podcast, Josh is also one of our amazing sponsors. And because of him, we're able to execute these podcasts at a really high level. So if you're enjoying the topics, the quality of the video, just the overall ambiance and vibes of the show, man, that's because of him. And the reality is that there's a lot of different lenders that can help you get pre-approved for a house or help you get a mortgage on your, next investment property. But the reality is that Josh is a lender that shares the values of this show. He loves the Lord. He believes in education. He's down to earth, and he wants to empower you to make the right real estate decision. So if you're looking for a lender for your next property or your first home, we're going to have his information in the description so you can check that out. You can also check out some of the episodes he's been on, so you can actually hear from him what values he brings, what makes him different, and why you should use him for your next or your first home purchase. And let's go ahead and get back into the show. Well, y'all, welcome to another episode of the Blueprint Podcast. Man, I'm super excited for this episode because we are interviewing a dentist today on the Blueprint Podcast. Not the typical guest for the Blueprint Podcast, but been following this man on Instagram for probably the last 6 months and have really just grown to appreciate him as an entrepreneur, as a brand, as a father, and I felt like he was going to be a great episode. So, y'all, give it a round of applause for Mr. Toks Emdin with Dentistry, man. Thanks for coming on today, bro.
Man, thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it. I was introduced to you by someone who I really am close to. So I was like, man, you don't have to tell me anything more. Just let me know, give me the information, and then I'll do whatever I can. Make sure I show up. Whatever I need to show up.
And I believe that was Marty Emale, right?
Yes, indeed. So that's a fraternity.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fraternity brother. Okay, yeah, man, we had Marty on maybe a month or so ago, and that's still one of our highest viewed videos, man. He really did really well, and that was a great video, and I think a lot of people got value out of that, man. So I love that y'all are connected.
Oh yeah, for a while. Yeah, I mean, he's talk basically used to be at least once a week, just to keep us going. Prior to him getting married, but we'll just keep each other going because when it came to this entrepreneur game. It's like we didn't feel that many people around us understood what we were really going through. So I can even remember the highways that I was driving on when I was talking to him and just needed to hear a word from him. I can remember those vividly. But now my man is married. He has a beautiful wife. So it's different. We don't talk as much, but I understand. We both get it. You know what I mean?
That's the same thing. Me and Marty, we similar, man. We just we chop it up when we have time. And I appreciate about him is and I love that I'm gonna sit on this recording, but hey man, you came up in a room you weren't in, man. But his intentionality to reach out, and that was something that was rare for me. Like, typically I'm the person reaching out, but he would call me and check in on me and ask me the hard questions, right? So I was super appreciative of that. So let's get into it, man. So you're a dentist, and a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with their dentist, right? We all know we should go, but some people don't go or whatever. But I love going to the dentist because from a young age, I went to an amazing dentist, and they just made it fun to go to the dentist, and they supported our family so well. So for me, I always just love the dentist business, right? But I don't really know a lot about it. So why don't you kind of just tell us a little bit about kind of your business, how it works, what you do, and then we'll keep going and kind of into more of your story.
Yeah. So, what we do, just like any other, the dentist, we just make sure that everything, the oral cavity in the mouth is taken care of. So we make sure that,
Right.
if you don't know certain things are going on in there that is in there, we just make sure we let you know. What we do is we diagnose if needed cavities, decay, and or gum, let's say gum issues. And if we
Mm-hmm.
do see that, we then create a treatment plan in order to get those people back to health. What we're really supposed to do though is really just, check out the teeth every 6 months, check off that everything is okay. Hey, maybe you need to clean one or two extra spots, and then we go off.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't want to do and what we're not, I would say, supposed to do is when we see people every 5 or 7 years and then stuff has grown bigger or whatever than what we wanted it to do, that's when we're now like we have to attack.
Right.
So my biggest thing, I guess, just so I throw it out there now is if we make it a thing like you, where you were going to the dentist as a child and you
Mm-hmm.
started with a great experience to where it's an okay place for you to go back once or twice a year, then that dentist has done their job. It was that beginning dentist that helped you. One of the things that we're really looking at is if we can increase the frequency of when we go in to get our cleanings, it decreases all the other root canals, crown, extractions, all the thing. It decreases that from preventing it. So
Gotcha.
that's my little
Okay.
plug I'm going to throw out with that. So the dental thing, yeah, it's big because there's an emotional connect because we're so intimate. It's like, who else is going to go and look inside someone's mouth?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of know what I mean. While they're awake, like we do
Yeah.
treatment while people are awake. All the other surgeries, you're fully asleep.
Yeah.
So we we have that side, but then we also have a business side that allows us to continuously do that side, which I
Mm-hmm.
would say a lot of us clinicians and dentists tend to neglect because it's not what we went to school to learn. It's not it's not what we went to school to learn how to be. We learned how to be caretakers, um, providers for our patients, but not to be able to keep a profit margin in order for us to continuously do that work and pay our
Mm-hmm.
people and other
Yeah.
people who come into
So
our
what
organization.
is the business of, like, I mean, do you guys get paid? I mean, from my understanding, for a typical medical practice, there's like it's the insurance play. They get to bill the insurance for the people that they come in, right? And that's kind of like a revenue, or your major procedure like your surgeries are pretty revenue generating. Is that how the dentist business works in terms of the business model, or kind of how does that work? How do you guys make money with it?
Great question. So yes, a lot of offices I'll say work in that model. You really have two models basically. Though you have the ones where they're very heavily insurance based, and then you have like let's say like the cosmetic type models where it's more out of pocket or more elective type treatments.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do, yes, let's say you do come in, you get a cleaning and X-rays. We're able to build that to your insurance for a certain amount of times within a year, right? If you say that if there is some treatment needed, at times insurance will cover a percentage of that cost. So there's going to be some out of pocket, and there's going to be some insurance that does help cover those treatments.
Mm-hmm.
If you have other types, it's different than medical where they cover almost 100% of like a kidney surgery or something like that. They can cover a lot of it as long as you're paying your premiums. Dental, not the same. The most that you're going to get out of an insurance plan is 2,000 to 2,500 for the year. The
Wow.
rest is
Okay.
going to have to be out of pocket. So this is something that we've been, fighting for to say, well, medical is given 50,000 to get some things done. How come we only get 2,500 for the dental? The mouth is also part of the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's one model. Then the other model is like, if you do like cosmetics or if you do implant surgeries, like things that, people don't have to have, but it definitely helps their quality of life if they do have it. That
Mm-hmm.
one is more
Yeah,
so
like
fee for
veneers, right? I see a
service.
lot of ads from dentists like running for like veneers, and like, are those the kind of things you're
Bingo.
talking about? Okay.
Correct. So you don't have to, like, a veneer is not because you have decay. A veneer is because either you don't like the way the shape of your tooth looks, or you're leveling up in life, or you want to,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you want to look better, feel
Yeah.
better. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely, you go for the veneer look. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, thanks
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
explaining that. And I want to go into, because our first conversation, you had just had a big break in your business model, right? And there's some things you were telling me. So kind of go into kind of how your business is structured, some of the things you're doing right now in terms of your business model, and how you're maybe making a pivot.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a maybe making a pivot. Is we've made such a harsh pivot in such a quick amount of time that it it knocked me down and it got me back up. So let's just put that
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
All right. So we made a pivot where, I was able to negotiate actually my way out of a lease or a contract that I had with a commercial real estate owner. I had an 8-year contract. And I don't know if they know about triple net leases and all that. I know you probably some of your
Mhm.
audience will know about that,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Just talk.
we
You
paid
can talk
every.
about just briefly highlight what it is. Yeah.
Okay, so basically we pay the taxes. We're going to pay all the common area fees for that property. We'll split it up between all the renters in that shopping center.
Hmm.
The landlord basically just has to have the land and the building, and the tenants pay everything else.
Yeah.
So we can have you're right. We can have a base rent of, let's say, 8,500, but every month we're paying 9,700 because we're also paying for the taxes. We're paying for people to come and clean the front area of the whole shopping center. We're paying part of this, let's say, some of the electric bills and all that. All of that is basically dispersed amongst that of the tenants within that shopping center. So
Okay.
we're paying high costs, especially to be in high end areas. So we're able to get out that lease, and then we moved in with another doctor who was down the street, had his office for sale, but it wasn't selling. So we were able to combine, for now, our office. I basically was renting space from him in his office as we worked together to now see, okay, maybe we can do a merger and acquisition type thing here
Okay.
soon. So
Wow.
we have similar clientele. His clientele, I'll just say, is a little bit more seasoned.
Hmm.
He's in the 70s now. I'm coming in with like some of the younger population of dental patients, and we're mixing that in. So we're making something work here. We've cut down tremendously when it comes to our
Okay.
expenses when we were separate. We've been able to utilize a lot of the same staff and team, like, so some of the front desk now are also helping my clientele as well.
Yeah.
I had to cut down even on my staffing just because we didn't even really all fit in this location, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
So these were ways in which we were able to cut down to better for the business to look better even too on paper in case we did want to do a sale
Okay.
later.
Gotcha. And
So
so is the play for you guys, do you need to have more patients or patients that stay longer? Like what, and obviously it could be both, but like in terms of your strategy, what's a better business scale? And I asked this specifically for the dentist business, but I'm sure that applies to a lot of different service industry type businesses. So is what will be kind of your take on that?
that's a great question, Michael. So it all starts with the end in mind. It's like, okay, what is the how does the end of this look? And what we've seen now is there's a consolidation in dentistry, just as there was in medical, meaning bigger groups buy other bigger, smaller groups, and then they become a big conglomerate. So
Hmm.
it's happening in our industry as well. One thing Warren Buffett said, he was like, it's not how hard you pedal, but it's the boat that you're riding in, something of that nature. Meaning
Mm.
you can run really fast doing a business model that just is not growing. Or if you have a boat that's going really fast downstream, you can hop on that boat and get a lot more in a lot less time.
Hmm.
So so in our industry, there's two ways. You can really basically sell it to another dentist, your office, or you can
Hmm.
sell to what they call DSO or private equity, private money, bigger, larger groups of money. They both look different. If you want to sell to a larger group of money, you want to increase what they call the enterprise value, the EV. Whereas if you want to sell to another dentist, it's different. You can just have the regular practice, doesn't really have systems, has an okay pool of patients, and you can transfer that to another doctor.
Okay.
Our goal is this one is we want to sell to larger, like a bigger group. Because not only would the dentists here cash out better and be more comfortable while they're doing the dentistry, but there's also more systems, there's more capacity to get more patients in. There's just you have more access to resources to grow further in the future.
Hmm. Okay. And so in
So,
that model,
yeah,
would you sell them the business and continue to work it, or are you just cashing out and going and starting another business?
great question. A lot of times it's hard for you to just cash out. So what they'll
Hmm.
do is they'll give you a value that your business is worth. At the beginning, when they first come in, they'll give you maybe half of that cash wise in cash.
Okay.
The others would be like in stock options to where, okay, if you stay here for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, this, when the value of the whole business grows, you also grow with it stock wise.
Okay.
If let's say you meet a certain goal that they have, then they can give you another cash dump. That's how I call it.
Hmm.
A lot of
Okay.
times by that second, they call it a recapitalization. Most clinicians or dentists, whoever's joined, you almost become financially independent if you work it well,
Hmm.
right? Is that type of life-changing capital. The reason is they know that they could acquire multiple offices, be under one umbrella, and the whole enterprise value of that whole thing grows because there's more people, there's more groups involved. That's the boat. Or you
Mm.
can pedal by yourself and say, I'm going to grind it out. I have my hygienist, I drill my dentistry, but then you can only sell it to another dentist who, at the most part, can go get a loan from a bank, as
Hmm.
opposed to private equity that has multiple loans from banks from multiple high net worth people that can dump
Right.
in a lot more at once. That's the
Okay.
difference.
Gotcha.
Great
So in
question.
my brain, I'm comparing that to a portfolio project in real estate or a cash flow project, right? So you can cash flow a couple $100s a month on, 5 to 10 rentals, or you can have a portfolio of maybe $10 million worth of real estate, and you maybe don't cash flow as much, but you have access to capital to borrow from those things. So that's kind of, I guess, the equivalent, I guess, in my brain of like kind of what those two differences are in terms of what your end goal is.
Correct. And with like how you just said, if you have that 10 million portfolio, you're capitalizing really on the appreciation over time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at in the future, this is what this is going to, the value of this is going to be worth. I could either refinance and take some out and get money back in my pocket, take some chips off the table, or I just keep
Mm-hmm.
waiting on that thing to, continuously appreciate and then sell, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But the conglomerate is the biggest thing. It's always going to grow bigger, better, and faster than the single unit. If there's one thing I want to
Yeah.
like put out there, that's the part. Because for me, it's taken me too long to learn that, and
Mm.
a lot of it was
Wow.
ego based. Yeah,
Really talk about that. Go into that.
the grind culture, or we come from the family where we've seen our parents work hard, bro, like different levels of hard in order
Right.
to achieve what they've achieved. And then you become aware of like what else exists, and you're like, man, they could have worked a lot less,
Mm-hmm.
but done it in the right boat. Not even the right, but in a different boat with more people taking less of what they were getting
Mm-hmm.
100%, but then appreciated way more. The group concept and us trying to like outshine the next person is a thing that will hold me and a lot of others back.
Mm.
So basically the bite dentistry name, it's no longer on the front of the door. It's no longer at the front of the office. I had to now say, forget the brand I'm building. Go underneath the senior doctor for some time. Learn,
Mm.
grow, be a group, and then get the upside of that. Not that the
Mm.
brand that I built is what has to stand in the front. No, no, no. It's his. And I'm gonna help him build that. That's the
Mm.
shift.
Wow, bro, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
that's so interesting because like, and we'll talk about spirituality here in a sec. But when I heard you
Yeah.
say that, you were talking about him. But in my brain, I was like, oh, that's like a perfect example for like Christ, right? Or how we come under the leadership of God. We put our brand, our ego, our desires, and we put him in front, right? And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
leads, and then we eat on the back end of that, right? So I just want to throw it out there because I was like, man, that's a perfect sermon illustration right there. So, yeah.
Facts. And even to piggyback off of that, and I want to make sure I get this. The biggest story that in the Bible that gets me each time, and I get it more and more and more, and it's when the rich man went to go ask. He's like, how do I get into the kingdom of heaven? How do I get into the gates of heaven? And the response was, you go and sell all your possessions, give it to the poor, come follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Look,
Yeah.
in real life, when that's really happening, I get why that person was like, nah, forget it then. I'm going to keep what I have on this earth. I'm going to keep what I have and go. Because that's what he did. That's a decision he made. It's really when you give up what you think you have control of and what you think is feeding you the most. When you're
Mm.
able to give that up, you see a new level of growth that that man never saw. And this thing,
Wow.
not only is it spiritual, is spiritual and a science. It's spiritual first because first you have to, they even have it where they call the law of the vacuum.
Yeah.
If you don't remove something, you can't put something back in bigger or greater. Some
Mm.
people want something that's like, yeah, but you keep the same old car in the garage the whole time. Yeah, go get rid of the car first, even before you even know what the next thing is going to come up in there. This is big. So the
Wow.
same thing with this. I'm like, this created. I was doing we're in the seven figure. I was in the seven figure business, and
Mm.
I only did 10% of the dentistry all of 2023. And then boom, I came down with the diagnosis at the end of 2023 that I thought I was gonna have to file for bankruptcy. Like had trouble walking. I had like some issues with my central nervous system.
Wow.
In 2 days, something can change like that.
Wow.
So it left me with no choice but to surrender. So even on socials, I didn't talk from almost the ending of November, December, all the way into half of the year almost. I
Mm-hmm.
went straight to, I went to Hope City. I went into, we have a group that we call Freedom. I just
Mm-hmm.
surrendered. At that point, I had no other choice. I had to give up something. I just surrendered everything at that point.
Wow.
It's like, well, hey, God, whatever it is you want, if it's not this, then, and as hard as that says, even it's hard for me to say it now, if it's not this, take it away from me.
Mm.
If that's not what it is for me, take it away. And man, when I say miracles were normal, my body, I was able to play tennis. I mean, I'm going to be open on the podcast. I was diagnosed with some stuff where people would be like, man, forget it then. Ain't no purpose really going on. Because I probably won't
Yeah.
be able to have all my like my physical activity. I won't be able to maybe do that in older age.
Wow.
But what happened within 4 month period when I had all these guys praying for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I started playing tennis tournaments now.
Wow.
Something where I couldn't do dentistry from December to February. Meaning like when I tried to hold the handpiece, my hand can get stuck like this. Or when I got up, I didn't have equilibrium.
Yeah. Wow.
You see where I'm going? And now I'm playing tennis tournament. I don't even care. I lost the game and I was happy. I lost them. I was happy that I lost.
Yeah.
That's where you see where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was able to get out of a lease that they could have came and bankrupt me with. They said, go ahead and go just fine. Like, take all your patients, everything out. I didn't even believe them. This happened within a series of 6 months.
Wow.
So now I'm at the point where it's like, dude, whatever comes, like however is coming into me, I'm surrendered. I accept the period.
Wow.
Like, I accept. Like I've been directed to here, and it was something I would have never planned. And I'm a planner. I've never planned
Mm-hmm.
for this to happen like this, but here I am. You
Man.
know, so
Yeah.
that's it.
That's incredible. Which takes me back to I'm going to share my screen here and go to a post that I saw
Yeah,
on your Instagram
yeah,
that I really liked. It's by Myron Golden, and so I'm also a big Myron Golden fan. So I saw this on your page, and so I want to play this video and then I want to talk about it because I think it ties in perfectly to kind of some
yeah.
of what we have just said. So let me play this real quick.
Ooh, correct. Mm,
Man, I feel like that just like encapsulates some of what we've talked about. I think he's even sitting in a boat. Like, I mean, it was just a lot of things about that just felt like I think he's in it, but I'm not really sure. But I think just in terms of that surrender and to keep going through and just surrender, like just give up to the process of whatever you're in. I love that you were just a perfect example of that. And like since we're being transparent, I definitely feel like I've been in a storm, where I've just felt like, Lord, I've been grinding really hard, I've been working really hard. I've been doing everything the way you're supposed to do it, right? And at times I'm like, okay, well, when is the universe, when is the world, when is God gonna recognize my work, right? And
School teacher. I mean, I've been in this thing. I've been going to the church house since. I mean, my great granddad. I mean, he was one of the top preachers in Sierra Leone, right?
yeah,
So it you can get deeper and deeper and deeper to where, okay, you now are living by faith, not just the communicate, not just speaking it out. Yes, it's important, like the power of the tongue. It is, but it's what have our reflexes now shown us about our faith? The
mm-hmm.
reflex.
Hmm.
Even with my son, with all that, I'm like, okay, when he does this, am I really trusting in God, or am I on my own again? Like, oh, if he does this, he's
Hmm.
gonna become like that. Or I'm
Yeah.
like, no, God already got this boy. The reflex with my wife,
Hmm.
all the in my staff, it's how are my reflexes? Am I still hesitant on many things?
Hmm.
That's showing how I'm worrying. So it's been a big question
Yeah, which I
in
think
my
that's so that
head.
I love that you said that because that's actually something that I kind of started noticing probably the last 2 weeks. I started noticing some old habits pop up and I was like, "Whoa, wait, where did that come from?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, that's me feeling the pressure and going back." So that I love that reflex work because I'm like, "Oh, that's a real indication of where I'm at." Right? So obviously the growth
Yes,
is to now recognize the reflex. Now you
yeah,
got to go back in. It is kind of like mental health, like going to therapy to kind of find out your triggers, your emotional subconscious triggers that happen that we don't necessarily know why we're happening, but like you're doing something because of your 10-year-old self. You know what I mean? Like all those kind of things that I think people are starting to become more aware of. I think we have those in our faith journey as well, which is what you just described, I think. And so I think one thing that I want to talk through with you on that is like and you necessarily may not have the answer, but what do you think the training is? Because obviously, like, okay, like if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to the gym and you're lifting weights, right? And there might be a time where like you lift to failure. Like the goal is for you to fail, right? And so that that's training you. So like the next time you can do 2 more reps or 1 more rep. So like, what do you think that training is in terms of our spiritual reflex? Do we just have to like just keep surrendering and that'll make you stronger so that your reflex is stronger or different? Or like kind of what are your thoughts on that?
it's a great question, and one of the things I think like we don't to piggyback that it's how far you've come from where you were before. Let's say as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
the faith reflex has improved. So
Mm-hmm.
it's us also having a measurement of this thing. Because if not, then we're really just going off of how we're feeling each time. Oh, my wife got this. She said this again, so it triggered me again. And if we're not careful with that, we'll always go back to those same triggers. You see where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going? And it's like,
Yeah.
but we haven't measured. It could really even be something like you call it what you want, call whatever your thing is at that point in time. It could be fear of doing something new. It could be how I
Mm-hmm.
communicate with mom and dad. But is this having like some form of measurement? All right, I spoke to my mom 3 times this week. Okay, we didn't argue for the last.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my things. I was doing this thing where I was like transform my whole paradigm. So everything my parents said I argued. I was trying to figure out everything they did wrong from my past
Yeah.
as to why I
Yeah.
was. We all
Yeah.
go through that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so now I've had this transformation after like that diagnosis came where I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
really only have a few more visits with my parents, right? If you really
Right.
analyze it, we
Yeah.
don't know how long they're going to be. So now, really, all we need is good experiences. I don't have to talk to them about business and my growth and make them get afraid of what I'm doing. So it's measuring. Me and my mom are not arguing like we did 2 times a week. We're
Mm-hmm.
not. My reflex is no longer to be combative with moms. This is what I'm just like. This is like the right now type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the measuring of the reflex so you know that you're improving or not or going back.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of it. It just has to be the two main things that you're struggling with right now. Okay, faith when it comes to who I'm going to marry, faith when it comes to when we're going to have our next child, faith is going
Mm-hmm.
to, this kind of things. Like pick your two and measure them. And that right there alone gives you some form of progress versus the feeling, this kind of like feel part all the time. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
would say on that, you
Ooh,
know?
that's so good. So basically kind of measuring your faith data, which kind of to me, I want to
Yeah.
go back to business, right? Because that's where we started off
Okay.
at, is like
Yeah.
if you want to scale your business to sell it to any, regardless if you're selling to another dentist or you're selling to the conglomerate, you got to be able to show the data of, hey, here's what we have done, right? And I think you mentioned that earlier in terms of the conglomerate route. Like you got to be able to show them, hey, here's where the room we have for growth, so that their investment makes sense. So talk about, like, I guess kind of parallel those, right, in terms of like what are some of the what are some of the data points in your business that you're tracking, and then we'll come back to that and talk about
Mhm.
like some of the faith
Great.
data points. But I want to kind of hear from the business perspective, like what are you tracking right now?
Great question. So, I'm always in growth mode. So, one of the
Mm-hmm.
bigger things is going to be marketing and then sales. So,
Okay.
even right now, as we speak, I'll have Facebook ads running. So, one of the big metrics I would track would be okay, how many leads are opting in to what we're offering?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I'll say, okay, how many people from those leads are booking appointments?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that right there is the top line thing of all of this. Like, because it's like we want new people to come in because we know new people within a year are going to, on average, spend $1,200 with the model that we have.
Okay.
So that's my top line. That's like a top line metric. When it comes to, let's say, our P&L, like our profit and loss, to
Mm-hmm.
show investors or people, I'm looking at the top line revenue, and then I'm looking at my marketing budget, and then I'm looking at my um, staffing budget, and then of course I'm looking at the bottom line, which is the profit or the EBITDA, the amount
Mm-hmm.
that's left after you subtract everything that you earned minus everything that you spent in that month period. That's the
Okay.
report card. That's the tracking of the faith. And that's what the investors are going to look at solely, not what I say,
Mm-hmm.
not how I feel. They're looking at that data, like that profit and loss is what they're
Mm-hmm.
looking at to see, okay, is this worth investing in or not? Is this person
Mm-hmm.
doing what they said they're doing with the business, or are they not? That's
Mm-hmm.
really the sympathy of the business.
You want to hear a crazy? I'm about to ask you a crazy question. Um,
Okay.
do you think that God looks at us like an
Look,
investment?
I- you know, as an investment for sure. I mean, because like I mean, we are him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
but in the way that business people look at it, I would say no, because I don't believe he values things more or less based off of performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heart condition. It truly is a heart condition. My thing though is I like to track improvement in the things I care about most in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So my relationship with the wife, the amount of time I spend with my son during the weeks, right? When it comes to
Mm-hmm.
my faith, how much am I worrying? Like faith would be like this depending on the season. Like how much was I worrying about my health? Um, how much am I believing in another child? To me, these are fake because I can really not see it, and it's a problem that only God can solve. No matter how hard I
Mm-hmm.
work, it's
Mm-hmm.
only God that can solve. So you're then left with it being faith.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to be like, "Oh, Michael is, doing 20 million in good deeds and less, let's say 3 million in sins,
Mm-hmm.
so he's worth
Yeah.
17 million." Nah,
Yeah.
I don't. I
Yeah.
don't believe he looks at it that way. It's a heart condition. You see where I'm going? Like,
Yeah.
is
That's
this
so good.
person really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. And that's something I'm relearning. And that's why my brain even thought of that question, is because something I'm trying to learn right now is, okay, is my blessing, or is the thing I'm believing for on the other side of works, right? And that's so hard for us to digest. Of like, hey, like my blessings aren't attached to my works, right? Or my whatever happens next. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to kind of redigest that. So that's kind of that's the data I'm tracking for myself. Is like, okay, like, hey, can I look at my growth? Can I look at my growth and just see like, hey, is my growth based on like, hey, am I trusting God no matter what, and surrendering and believing and being thankful? Like those are the data points I'm tracking, not like, hey, am I getting the blessing as a result of not sinning less? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
But we every time you go
that's
to
a
church,
great.
every time you look online, there's just a Christian reinforcing this works-based faith that is not real, and it's just a roller coaster, right? And so you just get beat up with like, dang, my sin, or my, oh, I don't have enough faith, I don't believe enough, or I don't have this. Why? So then you start thinking like, okay, well, dang, well, can the Lord invest in me? Like, can't, is my profit margins good enough? And like, his profit margins, he's like, dude, I already bought the business. I already like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, I've already invested everything in you, right? I just want to see you live in it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's so many, but oof, that's deep.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just going to be transparent on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should share, but I'm going to be transparent. He already bought you first off with the price of him dying on the cross, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
here's the
Right.
second: the fact that like we made it here, like this is real, and I
Mm-hmm.
say that because we've had multiple miscarriage,
Mm.
multiple. So when I just hold the kid, I'm like, oh, I was already bought. Like like this one was already. But the fact that this dude is breathing in my ear, my kid,
Mm-hmm.
this this is a very low chance.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's here is so it's a miracle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so really, all this is just all we gotta do is just be here. We hear the good news. Be honest with you, all the rest of this brand no, it really is so it's not even secondary, it's way beyond secondary. It's like
Mm.
trillionary. As long as the heart has said that we've committed to Christ, that I mean it's hard to believe because it's like it almost seems too simple to be true. But dude, we already been bought, bro. The business wave already been bought.
Yeah.
How far you want to make it go, that's up to us. Like, I mean, you want to do this in life, you can help 3 people, you can help 3,000, you can help 10 million, whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is a simple equation. Is the heart thing. It's like, okay, has your heart committed to Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior? That's it.
Yeah.
That is
Man.
really, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
bro, we're here.
Yeah, that's good. That's something I want to encourage somebody with. I think, if
Here,
you're wrestling
love it.
with like what is it that God wants me to do, or what am I supposed to do, or how am I supposed to do this, or whatever. And I think to some degree it's like, what do you want to do? Like you just said, I mean, you want to help 300 people, you want to help 3,000 people. Now obviously the work you put in to do either one of those is going to be different. So if you're committed to, for yourself, if you want to grow your dentistry brand and have multiple locations or sell it off, there's going to be you're going to have to go on a different faith journey than the person who's like, no, I'm just going to run my one office and good, I'm going to be good, right? So there's a different level of faith that you got to exercise based on what you decide to do, I think. But I think you also get to choose.
Facts. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Paul
That's
Paul
so good.
didn't have to be Paul did not have to be Paul. He did
Yeah.
not have to go through all these places that he went to, the Philippi. He didn't have to go to it, but in the book of Acts, he didn't have to go. He didn't have to go to all with Timothy when he went to their church. He did not have to travel even the way that he traveled, but he decided it was a decision that he had like truly made to do this.
Hmm.
He didn't have
Yeah.
to go to to get locked up in jail. I mean, that's what he decided to just do, right?
Hmm.
For the sake
Yeah.
of like Christ. So that's a big thing for me too because sometimes I would judge people. I would almost see potential in people that they're not utilizing and then judge them off of that.
Mm.
And that's wrong on my end. It's wrong because it's not how God sees them. It's not to say that you don't want to help someone see more in themselves, but to push them, not see them go, and then get frustrated or mad at that, that's sin. And I'm
Mm.
learning that too a lot whenever I'm like, I coach up people. That's a big on my end, and it's hard for me to say that out loud because I may still
Mm-hmm.
be in that. I
Yeah.
may still be in it.
Wow.
You're right. So, but it's a big part. Is you don't have, because my dad didn't do such and such doesn't make him any look different to God in any way.
Mm.
So because it's me and I'm judging it, don't mean that's how God is judging that whole thing. That's a big thing.
Woo.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that you make. I gotta check myself on that. I'm like, let me go. Hold on, let me go think about some stuff real quick, cause, yeah,
No, but
that's a
yeah.
good one. That's an insight I've never heard before.
Mhm.
That's shocking, bro. Okay, so you mentioned your family. Are your parents still in Sierra Leone, or are they here in the States?
They're in the States, man. So they've been here for
Okay.
almost 30 plus years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're American now.
Okay, got it. So, and the reason I brought that up is because I love being in Houston because Houston is such a international city, and so I've gotten to meet so many like just different nationalities, and our friend group. We have friends from Norway, friends from Nigeria, Sierra Leone. I mean, we have friends literally from like all over the place, and I love that. And I think because of that, I've just the circles that I run in, I've actually had quite a few just like Africans on the podcast, like people who are like either they're second generation, first generation, and so I know you have, African heritage. And so I'm curious, how has your African roots impacted entrepreneurship or impacted just how you go about life? Because I definitely have seen trends in like not I don't want to lump people together, but I just see similar things between you and some of my other guests that have come on the show in terms of just y'all's hustle, the grind, how you approach things, even how you exercise your faith in your business. And so I'm just kind of curious, kind of how that intersects, just your African roots and your entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for me it intersects. One of the best educations my mom gave my sister and I was the gift of travel because she was a teacher. So every
Mm-hmm.
summer we'll be somewhere. And when she took us back to Sierra Leone on the plane ride back, that's when I decided my whole life changed. I can remember this day. I was 13, wearing a Houston Rockets hat, and I was like, I will never complain to my mom again.
Mm.
Look, I would never complain to her again after I saw what I saw. And to be honest with you, I think that's what gave me the most drive
Mm-hmm.
because you go to a place where everyone looks like you. Be honest with you, you look like you definitely look like you're West African. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is how we all look over there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know that, bro, they got some geniuses. Like people are just smart. We're like human. We think we have a higher level of thought. But when you see the disparity, like how someone is living in the same time frame, just from a
Mm-hmm.
plane flight, there's a distance. You get confused, and so
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, okay, there's more of a drive for me to do something. If I can come back home, turn on air conditioning every time, and it comes on. I'll turn on the light every time it comes on. No matter what kind of hood you are in the United States, the hood got electricity so long as you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, you have a Lamborghini, your light cut off. And then you gotta drive that Lamborghini on roads that Lamborghini can't drive on. so,
Right. Yeah.
so, so the rich of the rich is at the standard of less than the low of the low at times in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
This was the dissonance that I got, like it created, and yeah, there's a completely different drive because of what your parents had to go through more recently than I'll say
Mm-hmm.
what others may have got to go. And I don't like to compare, but that's just what gave me specifically the drive, right? And I don't like to blanket all other Africans or second generations
Mm-hmm.
to think in the way I think. That's a whole nother thing. It's very diverse. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, especially diverse thoughts. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's played a big role because it's like, the worst of the worst that can happen here is some of the best that can happen there. Like bankruptcy
Mm.
would be a privilege because I even had enough to go. I was able to get a loan to even
Mm-hmm.
be able to do bankruptcy.
Right.
There, you can't even get the loan to even do the bankruptcy. You just bankrupt from the beginning. So no,
Yeah.
but that's a real thing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so last question for you. So I obviously
Yeah.
connected. I think the algorithm, I think I found you probably through Marty, or I'm not real sure. I've been following you for a minute, right? And it's
Yeah.
actually a trend. And for anybody who actually watches the Blueprint podcast, you've heard me say this a lot. A lot of my guests, I watch my guests on social media for 6 months to a year. And I just like
Well,
watch people, and sometimes we call it creeping on them. I typically am engaging with people's content. Like I'm not just creeping, right? But
yeah.
I was watching you put out messaging, right? And like I knew for some, I knew you were a dentist, but like you didn't talk about the dentistry all the time. Like you were talking about like spiritual. I mean, you kind of were mixing it up. So I'm kind of curious. You mentioned like your marketing budget and stuff. So were you using social media strategically for the business, or is this just an extension of just your creativity, just wanting to show up online? Like what's kind of driving your social content?
Yeah. So on my personal page, it's my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's just purpose work. So there's no true return. Yet the return on that is just like my mission, like to increase the
Mm-hmm.
generational equity of like 10,000 people, especially the ambitious Black minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on, let's say, the veneer side or the business side, yeah, I'm putting out ads that's leading to that page and paying a certain amount to get a return on that one. This one here is just really to like kind of air out or speak about what the experience that I'm really going through mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically as we
Mm-hmm.
go through the journey. Because I've always wondered, I'm like, man, how did people get there? Like, there's that part of the book we just couldn't read. It's like, man, what was
Mm-hmm.
Jesus really like when he was a teenager and like going through that puberty where like women were attractive and stuff? How did he combat that? It
Mm-hmm.
always has been a thing for me. I'm like, I want to know. So
Mm-hmm.
my thing is, I don't even care if I'm oversharing. I don't care if one person like it or not. I don't give, bro. I've truly, at this point, I'm just sharing how the thing comes. You see where I'm
Yeah.
going? So that's
Yeah.
where I am on that side of things.
Man, I love that, man. That's awesome. You're having a lot of fun with that. You don't have to have the pressure of like the algorithm and all the things. When I first met my wife, one of our first conversations, she told me she used her Instagram as like a journal. And I was so fascinated by that. I was like, "So you just put up posts just so you can go back and look at them?" She was like, "Yeah, that's like her Instagram was for herself, right?" And I feel like for me and a lot of content creators, sometimes we get into this like we're trying to perform for everyone else, right? To kind of get their approval, right? And that's something that I'm learning out of. Like, hey, I just want to. This is what God has called me to do. You can like it or you can not. I'm still doing it, right? That's the energy that I'm growing in. But yeah, I love your perspective on that, on in terms of social media and like kind of the difference between your personal and your business. Okay, what was the statement you said in terms of the 10,000 souls? What was that?
Yeah, so to increase the generational equity. So I probably wrote that, I've written that down over 10,000 times.
Wow.
There's something that when people don't value who they are that much, it hurts
Mm-hmm.
me the most. I can't bear it actually. I can't. Like when they undervalue themselves in society, it breaks me, bro. Like I haven't even have an issue looking at people who are on the street begging. I have
Mm-hmm.
issue because I'm like, again, the potential that they have and what they're utilizing. I have the issue. So that's my heart call. So when they say an increase to generational equity is when you can increase the value of what someone believes in themselves, especially like
Mm-hmm.
me, someone like me. That's the true reason I believe I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
If it's rethinking about a past event that happened to you to help it increase or better your future, if it's you increasing your price on your service as opposed to thinking you need to charge cheap,
Mm-hmm.
I live for that. That's what I'm here to do. So the equity piece, the part of the world that, let's say if there was a pie and each person had this or a group of people had this piece of the pie, then we increase that piece of the pie for ourselves.
Mm.
Right? It's a big thing and a lot of it, because of the way the world is set up, it happens to be financial.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to be financial. So I do put a lot of emphasis and focus on increasing that part. And my prayers, other things come
Okay.
after that. You see where I'm going?
Gotcha.
At least At
Yeah.
least now you'll be able to pay for mom or dad if they had to go to the hospital. That's not your issue. Whenever they're older, if it's
Mm-hmm.
your kid getting into a better access to just access to information, travel, you have that. It's not that the money is what's capping you from doing those or having those experiences, or the fear of not having, the fear of criticism from others when you're expanding. These are the things where it's like the more I can speak it into you, whoever it is I'm speaking to, and expand that more and more and more, the more I'm doing my purpose work. So increase the
Mm.
generational equity, at least 10,000 people. You see what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. And so your main way of doing that is through basically changing mindsets through your social content.
I mean, if I'm in here talking to the dental assistant, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, do you think you can do better dating a different type of person? It's
Mm-hmm.
not through social, it's as a being.
Mm.
Me
Yeah.
just when I'm in here doing the drill in people's mouth, I'm talking to them more about their life versus what I'm doing in their mouth. I'm being for real. It's
Man,
everywhere.
that's good.
It's everywhere. Yeah, no
Man.
doubt.
That's so good. Well, bro, this has been a life-giving conversation for me. Anybody watching, I know y'all going crazy because there has been some gems dropped. This was amazing. I appreciate talking to people who spend time with God, and I can tell that you've been in a secret place with the Lord. Because there's a level you can speak to the character of God, you can speak to spiritual truths, and then you can also like communicate those in a way that's absorbable. And so I think sometimes that comes with just ruminating on it, just thinking about it, processing it. And so I can always tell when I'm like, ooh, that man spends time with Jesus. Like somebody talking to this man. So I really appreciate you being vulnerable with us, transparent with us about your life. Any last words? Any shameless plugs? Anything you want to put out there?
Yeah, no shameless plug. I mean, the biggest thing is in all things we are going to put Christ first for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Another thing is to really study the gifts that God has really input in you, so
Mm-hmm.
those can be more utilized into the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's really studying the gifts that God has given us for us to use. I think that's our secret weapon in this world.
Yeah.
And mine
That's
is
good.
different than yours, which is different than my sister's and my wife's and my kids. So it's like fine tuning that, getting what it is that's yours, and then really using that for the glory of God. Really, it's for the
Mm.
kingdom. You know,
Man,
absolutely.
that's good. That's good, man. Well, y'all, thank y'all for watching the Blueprint Podcast today. If you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know that you appreciated this conversation and you want more content like this. I'm constantly on the lookout for guests that I think can encourage your faith, help you build wealth, and help you grow, make smart real estate decisions or smart business decisions, whichever one is your forte. So, again, thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.